So let's start today. So the last class we discussed about storage. Storage plays very important role. So instead of keeping the files on the local hard disk, we have to have dedicated storage, and you have to keep the files on the storage device. So today we are going to discuss about virtual machine. So the administration of virtual machines, not this one. So we need to talk about the virtual machine administration. So from today onward, we are into the administration part. Okay. So this is the actual part of VMware admin. So whenever like we get into the environment, in a company, we already have ESXi, we already have the storage configuration, and we already have the server configuration. So from here, we need to configure the virtual machine or edit the virtual machine. Okay. So sometimes we need to install the operating system into the virtual machine. We need to install the VMware tool. Okay. So virtual machine administration. So here we need to understand like how we can plan and create virtual machine, plan and creating the virtual machine. We need to see like how we can able to configure. So configuring virtual machine, and we try to see how we can able to edit. So editing and deleting the virtual machine, and the most important thing, installing operating system into that VM. Okay. So installing and configuring VMware tools. So this tool we are going to install into the VM, means the virtual machine which you create. In that we need to install the virtual, the VMware tool. And one of the important concepts we try to see cloning of virtual machine. And the most important thing we'll try to see like how we can make templates. So creating and configuring the templates of virtual machines. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, my voice is not coming, everyone. See, from my side, everything is okay. You have to check on your side. Like all the people, they are getting voice. Okay. So send him a message, just leave and reconnect. So first of all, like we have to understand here what is virtual machine. Okay. So from beginning, like we were discussing about virtual machine, but we did not create it because virtual machine is nothing but it's a guest product to implement. Okay, so virtual machine is nothing but it's like one guest product. Okay, so we created all the environment. Okay, so in high configure environment, we have to we have the ESXi servers. We also have the storage. Okay, so multiple NIC cards. Okay, for redundancy of networking. Okay, so it means like the virtual machine is ready to run in the highly available environment. Okay, so in first day or second day, we can able to create virtual machine. But why we did it to create our, why actually we have not created the virtual machine? Okay. First of all, like we have to, we have to have the clear, the clear idea with our environment settings. So first we need to have the settings like before, we get to the virtual machine administration. So first of all, we need to know about like the networking. We need to have some idea about the NIC card. We need to have idea about, the storage and all these things. Okay. So that is the reason like we have not created, the virtual machine. Okay. And that is even like one of the reason like why we created the virtual switches. We have done the storage. We have done the vCenter server. Okay. So the next thing what we need to do is creating the virtual machine. Okay. But before we get into the virtual machine administration, okay, so we actually have one more small topic pending. What is pending? Anybody can remind me? What is actually pending? So one of the small part pending, the last session we were talking about the storage. So on the top of storage, we talked about the local storage, that is, DAS, direct attached storage. We also discussed about network attached storage. Okay, that is, we actually discussed about like, the SAN, storage area network. So one more category we have NAS, network attached storage. Okay, so what is the difference between like iSCSI as well as NAS? We have already discussed about iSCSI. Okay, so iSCSI provide you the raw disk. Okay, so whenever it's like a raw disk, you can format, use it. Okay, so what we have created in last time, like we created two hard disks. That means like we created two LANs, and we provide to the ESXi. We have actually given access those two LANs to our ESXi. Okay, so LAN is nothing but the raw disk, which is formatted by the file system. We actually formatted that one. So when you talk about NFS, so which is NFS nothing but which is already formatted. You know, like when you talk about any drive, so we actually formatted. Okay. So first thing we need to see, I'll try to show you like how we can able to create NAS and how we can do this practical. So let me connect again. Okay, we have vCenter servers. So let me power on the ESXi. So last time, like we have created our, the vCenter as a storage. We created, we added two hard disks and, uh, we have created two LANs, and those two LANs we have given access to all the ESXi. So that is for the storage part. Okay. So in today, what I can do. So today is very simple, practical. So NAS is nothing but you already have some disk, and that disk you can able to give access to your network. So if you are a Linux person, so it will be very easy for you to understand the NAS. Mhm. So what we are going to do today, so I can make, I can add one hard disk on my domain controller, that is my DC. See, this is my domain controller. And first, I'm going to add one hard disk here. So adding hard disk is very simple. Just you can go to settings of your virtual machine. And here, I just go add hard disk and whatever the size you want. Okay. So let's say, suppose I'll give 200 GB. So 500, 1 terabyte, whatever you want, you can give it, no problem. So first thing is we need to add a hard disk and you have to make a drive. You have to initialize that one. You can open the disk management or you can open the server manager. So first thing is make it online, initialize, and make a drive. So now when you open my computer, so right now you can see we have a drive, right? Okay. In that, I can make a simple one folder. The name of the folder I can have NFS. You can put any name. Okay. So here I don't want to share raw hard disk. I want to share the folder that is your NFS over the network. Okay. So you can share with Windows or you can share with NFS. Okay. So by default, like if you right click and if you go properties, so one of the options you may have sharing. Okay. But on the top of sharing, this is, I'm going to share with my Windows. Okay. But if you remember, like ESX is not, the Windows operating system. It is one kind of a Linux platform. Okay. So whenever like if over the ESXi, if you want to access this NSS, okay. So here we are going to install one of the service here. Okay. So if you want to share with NSS your ESXi, okay. So support only for ESXs. Okay. So here you have to remember, so wherever you suppose you may have a separate hard disk or you may have, suppose I'm making separate volume here. So whatever the folder you created, if you want to configure NFS, okay. So here what we need to do, you have to, you have to install one service here. Okay. So that service, you just open the server manager. On the top of server manager, you have to go same, whatever we have done yesterday. Just go to files and storage services. And here, one of the options we have direct server for NFS. So this option we need to install. So this option we selected yesterday. Why? Because we configure iSCSI target. Means we have created iSCSI initiator, and with that we have configured all our learns, and we have given access to those particular dedicated ESX files. So here I'll put a check mark to server for NFS and install it. So once the installation is done, so one more time we can go the properties of the same folder, and in that you may have certain options. So the installation is done. Okay. So one more time now, I can go to the properties of the same folder. And here you can see one of the options we get, NFS sharing. You have to just select this and you can say manage NFS sharing and you can say share this. Now, when you go permission, so regarding permission, like what you can do, you can give read only. You can give access this folder to a particular user, okay? Or even you can give read write permission. So read write means now access, or you can do the modification. Okay. So apply. Okay. Okay. And this information you have to remember. Okay. So the name of my DC is means the name of my server is DC1, and on the top of DC1, this folder is there NSS. Okay. So we have done one of the part in our server. Okay. Now you have to connect to your vCenter. Open your browser. https://192.168.65. The name of my administrator is administrator@wipro.com. So this time we can go directly to our data store. On the top of data store, if you see, like these are the local data store, and we have already created our shared data store, and one of the data store we created for our virtual machine, and these two data store we created for shared storage. Okay. So now simply I can right click, and here I'm going to create one more data store. Okay. So this time I'm not selecting VMSS. So here I'm going to go with the option NFS. Okay. So create an NFS data store on NFS shares over the network. Okay. So that means I have already done NFS share. So by using that NFS share, I'm going to, I'm going to access that share here. And go next. So what type of version you want? Okay. So 4.1, we have NFS 3, that is your 4 dot. So whatever the version you want, you can use it. Okay, so we can go with the default like NFS3, and what the name you want. So basically, like NFS basically used to store the ISO images in the environment. So whenever we want to install any virtual machine, we need actually ISO images. Okay, so in virtual machine, if you are installing operating system, so that time we can get this location for NFS. Okay, so here I can use name ISO images. Now folder. So where it is? So yeah, so that is in E drive. So for we have already shared that is on E drive. So E colon slash NFS. Okay, so this thing you have to do. And where is that? Our NFS server IP. So right now, for me, the IP is what? 192.168.57.60. So domain controller is my NFS server right now. Okay. Next. Yes, you can give name also. The name DC1. So right now you can see ESXi1, ESXi2, ESXi3 is not responding. Okay, let me see what happened to ESXi. Yeah. Just we restart this one, ESXi3. Now we can try one more time. So just go to the storage, and here just right click on your data center, storage, new data store. And here right now I'm going to go with the option like NFS, create, we are going to create an NFS. So NFS3, and the name of the data center, data store, I'll be giving ISO images, and the folder, that is our E drive, colon, slash, the share name we have, NFS, and we can put IP or we can put name. See, he's giving an example here. Okay. So 192.168.57. So the reason why I'm giving IP was because the vCenter from where I'm going to access. So this is not a part of my domain. This is actually my personal machine. So 57 dot 60. That is my NFS server IP. Next, and make sure like everything should be okay. All the information, whatever you provide, it should be okay. So the NFS storage you create, so from where you want that NFS storage will be accessed. Okay. So I'm going to say like I want this NFS going to access from ESXi 1, 2, 3, or if you have multiple hundreds of ESXi if you have, so you can just put a check mark so that. So normally what happens like as I told you, like basically NFS, we are going to store, the images. Okay. So whenever, if you want to install any operating system on the top of like virtual machine, we need the images, right? We need to have the operating system images. Okay. So in VM, we are installing operating system. That time, we have to remember this location. So that like whatever name I'm giving here, and ISO images, so it can be accessed. So better keep all the images in your NFS. And it's not only about the operating system images, you can keep all kind of images here. Next, and finish. So one more data store created, that is here. And this data store I have not created to keep my virtual machine information. See, I'm not keeping any VMware files. Okay. So this is, so here what I want, I just want to keep only the images of operating system. So how we can do that? So right now, if I go to, go to this particular ISO image. So right now there is nothing. Why? Because nothing is there. That folder which I share is completely empty. You can see if I go to NFS folder, so this folder is completely empty. So what I can do? So from my server, I can copy that. Okay, from my personal machine, I have images. So future, what is my plan? I want to install this operating system. So I just copy this 2016 and I'll go to the location. So where is that? And here I'm going to paste. Okay. So here, try to keep all your ISO images. It may be the server 2008, 2016, 2012. Okay. So what were the images available here? Based on these images, we are going to install the operating system. Okay. So this is the practical for the virtual machine, NSS. Understand? And how we can use that? So let's say just I'm giving a dummy example here. Suppose if you make a virtual machine. Next. So I want to make one. So first of all, what is asking here? Select the storage for configuring file. Means here you can see even ISO images is also available, but we are not keeping any files on the top of these ISO images. Okay. Let's say suppose I'm keeping here on my virtual machine, and we are planning to install the operating system that is based on my 6 dot later. And let's say suppose I'm planning to install 2016, and here you may have one option. Okay, so one of the options, so you can see CD drive. From here you can go and you can able to select your data store ISO file. Okay, so the images, so once you load that image, so that image is coming here. Okay, so this is the reason like we have created that particular ISO images. So right now we don't have, why? Because it is adding now. Okay, so almost some of the part is done. So till then, now let's talk about virtual machine creation, like how we can able to create a virtual machine. Okay, so here, if you want to create a virtual machine, so either you create directly, you can right click on ESXi, or you can even directly create from a data center. See, so if you want, let's say suppose I want to make the virtual machine on the top of direct ESXi, I can right click, and here I can have one option, new virtual machine. Okay, instead of that, what I can do now, I can even directly right click on my data center. On the top of data center also, I just right click, and here also we have an option, virtual machine. So what is the difference, like if I'm selecting from data center, if I'm selecting from the direct ESXi. So here, suppose if you are right click on data center, so I'm creating a virtual machine. So here, even it's asking so many options. So let me maximize. So here you can see one of the option is asking, you want to make a virtual machine, you want to deploy from a template, you want to clone existing virtual machine. Okay, so in couple of maybe in coming session we are going to see like what is a template, what is clone, these things we are going to see. Okay, so now as of now, just I want to make a virtual machine. Next. Okay, so as I told you, so if you try to create a virtual machine on the top of, if you right click on data center, so here it will ask you. Okay, so you can provide a name. Let's say I'm making the virtual machine here. Let's say I'm making for my Exchange server, or I can say web server. And we are making on a data center. And now it will ask you all the ESXi. So that means we are making the virtual machine on the top of data center. Okay. But instead of that, if you right click directly on on direct ESXi, and when you try to create a virtual machine, so here also it asking you the same question. Okay, the name of the virtual machine. Let's say I'm creating a virtual machine as web server, and here same. Okay, so here also we have the same method. Okay, so either you create from data center level, or we can create direct from ESXi. So select ESXi1. Next. Okay, now the next very important thing we need to understand here. Okay, so we are making brand new virtual machine. So where you want to maintain the files of this virtual machine. So even though you may have multiple options, so he's asking the location, remember. Okay, so when you install ESXi, and on the top of let's say suppose this is your ESXi server, on the top of ESXi, suppose you may have a local hard disk. So if you don't have a shared storage, if you don't have NSS or nothing, so what it will do, it will try to show you only the local storage. See, we have renamed this is actually local storage, but by default the name will be like data store. Okay, the default name is data store. That is the default name. Okay, so that means the virtual machine which I'm creating on the top of this ESXi, so this file I have to keep only on this particular data store. Okay, but I don't want this. Why? Because what happens if something happened to the hard disk, if if my ESXi failed or something happened, so this virtual machine I cannot able to run. Why? Because all the files are exist on the same location. So now what I can do, now suppose if you have another server, and if you want to do the migration, or if you want to run this virtual machine to another server, you need to have one shared storage. So this is your SAN. So if you remember, like the last time we created two types of data store. One is shared data store as well as virtual machine data store. And just now, like we have also created ISO images. So ISO images is also one kind of data store, but I'm not going to keep all my virtual machine files here. Why? Because I want to use, NFS only to maintain the images of operating system. So that with these images, I'm going to install the operating system. So that is my aim actually. So what I can do, so here, either I can keep on my shared storage, that is my shared data store, or I can keep on virtual machine. Okay. So in my scenario, like I have created dedicated, data store where I can keep all my virtual machine files. This is virtual machine files data store. See, this is the name of data store. Remember, okay, for my understanding I have given this name, but in your time, like let's say, like if you try to create virtual machine in your organization, so according to the requirement, whatever the the requirement come, based on that you have to select that particular storage. Okay, so select your data store. Next, the next option. So right now we are using compatible with ESXi 7. So starting from ESXi 3.5, we have 4.0, then 5.0, then 5.1, 5.5. Till now, Microsoft introduced this many versions, 6.0, then we also have 6.5, 6.7, and one more we have 7.0. So I want to get all the latest option which is available for 6.7 ESXi. Next, and here, what type of operating system you want to install on your virtual machine? See, basically, this will be your virtual machine. So what type of operating system you want? Is it possible like we install only Windows operating system? ESXi designed only to run Windows. So according to the requirement, maybe I install Windows, I can install Linux, maybe I can install Unix, I can install Mac. Okay, that is the based on the requirement. So here, one of the options we have Windows, you may have Linux, you may also have other. Other means like you may have Apple, you may also have even I don't know all these things. I never work on this. We have Novell, Oracle Solaris, Sun Microsystem. Okay? There are many. See, operating system doesn't mean like we just have only from the Microsoft or Linux. You may have many. So as of now, in Linux, you may have multiple versions, I guess. So it may be like Red Hat, it may be SUSE Linux, and there are, some name. Whenever we see this name, something like we laugh, like SUSE, CentOS, okay, Debian. There are many names, Sun Solaris, okay, you see, many. So I don't want Linux. You just try to install Windows. So in Windows also we have multiple version in server operating system. Okay, so you can install like Windows 7, you can install Windows 8. Okay, so anything you can install here. So right now I'm planning to install Windows Server 2016, and here directly one of the option is available. Okay, see normally what I'm doing here, I'm installing a virtual machine. On the top of this virtual machine, I'll be installing 2016. Okay. If I put a check mark here, what it will do? Enable Windows virtualization based security. That means again in these on the top of this server, suppose I can even install the virtual machine. Okay, maybe I can install Hyper-V. On the top of Hyper-V, I can run the virtual machine. So if you are doing that one, so first thing is your processor has to be support. Okay, so the processor has to be VTX, not VT, VTX. Okay, so that means in virtualization you can do virtualization. Okay, that means this 2016 actually we are running on the top of ESXi. In 2016 again we can do the virtualization. Okay, so if you want to do that, you have to put a check mark here. Enable Windows virtualization based on security. So I'm not doing that one. And later also you can do that, no problem. Or like when you go next, so this is one of the most important option we need to remember. Okay. And as I told you, yeah, anything. Okay. But normally like virtualization means we are trying to configure Hyper-V on the top of Windows. Okay. You can install like VMware workstation also. Okay. So on the top of that virtual machine, if you want to run VMware workstation, so you have to enable that technology, right? Otherwise, let's say if you're using a normal laptop, and even in normal laptop also, if you try to install, I'll show you what's the error you get. Maybe I have not enabled that in my laptop. So last time I have experience. So this is my laptop. Okay, so this is my i3 4th generation, and I have total 8 GB RAM here. And let's say suppose I want to run this Windows Server. So when I say resume, so here for me it will give you one error. See this kind of error. Okay, so that means my computer is supporting virtualization. Okay, but here is saying these hosts support Intel VTX. Okay, but Intel VTX is disabled. See, my laptop is going to support the virtualization technology, but that technology is by default disabled. So what I have to do, I have to power off. I have to go BIOS. On the top of BIOS, I have to go the settings of processor. On the processor setting, I need to enable that. Okay, that is the option. So that is your firmware setting. Okay, so if you are sitting on direct machine, you can restart, you can go BIOS, and you can able to do that. But what was the virtual machine? Suppose if this is a virtual machine, then so in that time, you have to remember that. So the first option here we have a CPU. See, whenever you try to make virtual machine, so virtual machine deal with certain options. Okay, the first thing you have to remember the processor, you have to remember the memory, and you have to remember the hard disk. Okay, apart from that, you need to remember, you'll be having an option like network, means like which network you want to connect to this and how you want to install. Okay, so this thing you need to remember. So the first very, very important option is CPU. You know what is the use of CPU? So first discuss this. Now we are going to discuss with the CPU. Yeah, CPU directly, we are talking about the processor only. So here, the first option here is saying core per socket. And if you remember, maybe I explained already about the sockets and core, right? Maybe like when we started our the VMware class, at the time of installing the ESXi on the top of the virtual machine, on the top of the device, in that time we already discussed about like what is socket, what is core. Okay, so socket is nothing but on the top of motherboard, how many processor you can have? Let's say you have two physical processor. So the place where you connect the processor, that is called a socket. Okay. So core means, so this processor may be like quad core. The processor may be like 2 core. The processor may be 16 core. The processor may be 10 cores. Okay. So right now, whatever the processor are coming in the market, so it will be having many cores. Cores nothing but you may have some advanced technology. Okay. So first thing is asking like how many cores you require per socket. Okay. So right now I have two CPU. I don't want two CPU. Let's say I just want to give only one processor. That means one socket. Socket will be one, and how many core you require in that socket you can define. Okay. And one of the options. So whatever the let's say I'll be having motherboard. On the top of motherboard, I have multiple processor. Okay. One of the option, we have here CPU hot plug. Okay. So what it will do, if you put a check mark, okay, at the running state of virtual machine, I can able to do the changes. I can, instead of one, I can make it two. Instead of per one socket, I can do the changes. That is the meaning of CPU hot plug. Okay. So if you enable this, we can increase or decrease the configuration when the virtual machine is running. Okay. So it's up to you. Whenever if you want, you can put a check mark. Okay. Now the next thing, we have something called reservation. Okay. Let's say suppose my CPU, it is going to suppose 300 gigahertz. How much my machine is supporting? Let me see. I can go to my 2.7 gigahertz. Okay. See, the actual speed which is available in my processor is 2.7 gigahertz. So when I power on this virtual machine, the virtual machine which I use, this is your ESXi. On the top of ESXi, I'm making a virtual machine. So when I power on this virtual machine, do you want to reserve some kind of processor speed to this particular virtual machine? Okay. You may have, suppose, let's say, I'll give some speed here. 1000 megahertz. Okay. So once I power on, automatically what happens? Doesn't matter whatever the speed my processor support, from the complete, it is going to take 1000 megahertz. See, just I'm giving example. Okay. So whenever you reserve means automatically it will occupy that much configuration from your physical socket. Okay. From your physical CPU, it is going to take out 1000 megahertz speed. Okay. Minimum you may have maximum my processor supporting 2747 megahertz. Okay. So from here, how much you want to reserve, you can. Okay. So normally we don't reserve, but if you want, you can reserve it. Okay. And limit what you want. Okay. So you want unlimited. See, by default is unlimited. You can able to reserve that one. You can have limits. Okay. When it exists, then it will be used only 1000 limit. Okay. So there are some options here. This thing even we are going to discuss when we have resources. When we try to create resources pool. So at that time we can discuss. One of the options we have CPU mask. Okay. So CPU mask. Okay. So leave it on the default option. Okay. And when you go advanced here, you may have like the value for the registers are empty. So see, this thing will be, when you are configuring some kind of virtual machine, and if you want to give a specific CPU configuration to that particular virtual machine, in that time you can do that. Okay. And hardware virtualization. Okay. So as I told you, means uh, if you try to configure the nested virtualization, you can able to put a check mark. Okay. That means on the top of this virtual machine, if you want to install the VMware, or if you want to install the Oracle, if you want to install the nested virtualization, if you want, then in that time you can able to do this setting. Okay. Just enable this. So automatically on the top of that virtual machine, you can install many virtual machines based on the software. Okay. So one of the option, the best option you can see, schedule affinity. Okay. So now we have this option affinity. Okay. So if you want hyper thread technology on your server, what happen? If if you're creating cores and traffic, okay, it will take from any of the socket cores in terms of like hertz. So whenever it's available. Okay. Suppose we have 8 cores, and I don't want all the cores. Okay. So I want just only 0, 1. I can put like this 0, 1. Okay. So if your processor suppose is having 8 cores, So I don't want all the cores. I want this virtual machine take only 0 and 1, or maybe like 0 and 2. Okay. So I want to use like that. Okay. So it will take from a specific core. This is not going to use, but if you want, if you have database server, in that time, we need to schedule affinity, if you need a very good performance. Okay. So now normally what happens? So whatever the cores you have on your CPU, so from that core, it is going to specify, okay, you can take 0, 1 or 0, 2 based on your requirement. Okay. So normally, like, we don't do this. The reason why I'm explaining, so that everything you need to remember. This is about your CPU. Now, the next option we have regarding memory. Memory also plays very, very important role. Okay. And memory give you some configuration. Okay. So first of all, let's say this is your ESXi. On the top of ESXi, you have suppose 128 GB RAM. Okay. So this 128, obviously, we are not giving only to one particular virtual machine. Okay. So based on the requirement, like how much you want, like when you power on, let's say suppose I have given 4 GB to this virtual machine. Okay. So once you power on this virtual machine from 128, automatically 4 GB will be given to this virtual machine. I'm just giving example. So right now my complete ESXi is having 4 GB. Okay. So we are not giving 4 GB to our virtual machine. So according to the requirement, like some virtual machine need 4 GB, some virtual machine need 16 GB, some virtual machine need maybe 32 GB, some virtual machine need maybe like 2 GB also. Okay. According to the requirement, how much you want, you can able to decide. Okay. So, and let's say suppose I have given 2 GB. Just I'm giving an example. From 2 GB, how much you want to reserve? Okay. Let's say I reserve 1000 MB. Same thing, the same as it is as your processor. So once you power on, maybe your server is using or not, automatically it is going to use 1000 MB. Okay. You can say reserve all the gas. Okay. Now, if you don't want, you can have unlimited. So by default, it may be 0. So unlimited means whatever I'm giving, it is going to use unlimited from there. Okay. Now, here also, like, we have an option, memory hot plug. If you put a check mark, let's say now I'm giving 2 GB. Later on, maybe I need 4 GB. Later on, maybe I want 8 GB. Later on, maybe I want the 16 GB. So at the running stage, okay. So at the running stage, you have to, you can do that. Okay. So these things we don't have in our, in our workstation. Let's say suppose I have given how much RAM here. When I install this ESXi, here total I have given suppose 8 GB. Now I want to increase. So when I go to settings, and if I want to increase, okay, so from 8, let's say I want to increase this one, 16. You see this? This option is not highlighted. I want to have 16 GB here. I cannot do that. Why? Because now the virtual machine is running. But instead of that, suppose if I want to make any changes, I have to shut down this virtual machine. I have to shut down, then I can do the changes. Okay, I can have one, I already have one shutdown virtual machine. Let's say I can go here. No, this is not shutdown. We need shutdown. So we can shut down one of these. No, we don't shut down this. Okay, I'll shut down a server. I can right click, power off. Now, if I go to settings, now I can do the changes. Now 2 GB I can make 4 GB, I can make 8, I can give 16 now. So I can make the changes. Why? Because this virtual machine is power off state. Okay. Suppose if that is the case, what we can do. Okay. If my virtual machine is, if I put a check mark at the running state, I simply go the settings and I can able to, I can able to increase the RAM at the running state. No need to shut down, no need to do anything. Okay, if the application is already running now, shutdowning virtual machine is take, it may be a lot of problems. So here you can put a check mark. The next very important option, we have something called hard disk. Okay, so hard disk plays very important role. So regarding hard disk, you may have certain option here. Okay, so one of the options you have here, you can give a space how much you want. Okay, so the storage which I have selected total, I have 500 GB. So from 500, let's say suppose I'm giving 40 GB, no problem. Okay, so here you may have certain options. This is very important. One of the options we have thick provision, lazy zero, or thick provision, eager zero, or thin provision. Okay. So what is thick provision and what is thin provision? Okay. Thick provision means, okay, so it will take all the space from the storage. Okay. So whatever I have given, what it will do? So once the virtual machine creates, so from your storage, automatically it will take the 40 GB. That means like when you power on the virtual machine, from your storage, it will collect all the space. Okay. But if you go with the option like thin provision, okay, so this option use, you know, thin provision means, okay, start from zero. When you start storing, it will take on that much space. Okay. Now I can give an example. Let's say suppose I make a virtual machine and I have given 40 GB. So when you see the drive, it look like you may have 40 GB. Okay, but it's not taking 40 GB from the storage. Okay, so this is the storage 40 GB. Okay, so when you start storing, whenever you try to store the data, automatically it will start occupying the storage space. Okay, that means according to the requirement, it is going to store. Okay, means so start from zero. So when you start storing, it will try to take that much space from your storage. Okay, but when you talk about thick provision, so you store or not, it will take direct all the space to your drive. Means it will occupy all the space from the storage. Okay, one of the option we have like thick provision eager zero. Okay, so this option used when you want to enable fault tolerance on the virtual machine. Like if you want to enable the FT, fault tolerance, so at that time we need to use that. Okay, so that is based on your disk mode. Okay, so we try to see one of the option that is eager zero when we have a topic called fault tolerance. In that time I'll show you in detail. Okay, so what is the best option? Thin. Why? See, all the time, yeah, all the time, we cannot say like this is, this is good or this is bad. Normally, what happens? So, in my case, the thin, we can say thin provision is best. Okay. So now, if you go with the thick, what happens? See, normally it will not take space. Storage look like empty. But when you start keeping means maybe end of the year, automatically that much space will be finished. Okay. So, but if you go with the thin provision, so at a time only, only one time only it is going to take the space. Okay. So whatever the space available on storage directly will show you. Okay. So based on the requirement, you can select. Okay. So I'm going to go with the option thin provision or thin, thick. Whatever you want, you can do that. Okay. And here you have like this mode dependent or virtual node. Okay. The next thing we have new SCSI controller, iSCSI SAS, that is your SAS. Okay. So here also, you can go with the logic SAS, or you can also go with, the bus logic parallel. Okay. See, normally like we just use some kind of default option here. Okay. Now, one of the option we need to remember, I'm making a virtual machine. So that virtual machine, which network you have to connect. Okay. So obviously, like we are connecting the virtual machine to switch only, and the right now the switch we have configured, that is our distributed switch. Okay. But on the top of distributed switch, we have configured different port groups. So in which port group you want to connect? Okay. Suppose if I connect to DMZ, so whatever virtual machines are available in DMZ port group, it is going to communicate. Okay. So every time, according to the requirement, you have to connect to this particular port group. Okay. You can browse, and here you can see you may have this is DMZ created on distributed switch. There is one more DMZ port group. If you remember, like we created on standard switch also. Okay. So if I select this, that means it is going to connect to the standard switch. So I'm not using a standard switch here. So one of the port group we created like production. One of the port group we have created. This is for the management, and we have two dedicated port group for the storage. Okay, and one of the port group I have, you know, a VM network. Okay, so wherever you want, you can connect. So let's say I want to connect to my VM network, means virtual machine network. Yes, I'm connecting the local. Why? Because that port group already created to all the ESX sites. That's a default. Now, the next thing is how you want to install the operating system. Okay, you have to select that particular option. So here, just click this, and we are installing with the help of ISO files. Okay, so let me see. That is already copied. No, yes, copied. Even you can see from your storage also. Okay. Now I just select from host data store ISO, and here I can select ISO images. In ISO image, if you see, you have already this is our server image. I can select. Okay. So with this particular image, we are installing data store ISO. So here you have some video cards. That is your graphic card, SATA controller, and if you go like other options, okay. So here also like you can attach your multiple hard disks, okay. So keyboard layout, everything you have, all the adapters and everything. So we don't require this, okay. So now I can go next, and everything is done. See, NIC type is using, this is your MAC address, E1000, that is your LAN card, finish. So once you make the virtual machine, so that virtual machine now it is going to start. So now I can go that virtual machine, power on that. So right now it's power off, power on. So directly I can say launch from web console, or even I can launch from, if I'm using like VMware workstation, I can say launch from remote console. So web console means directly you get one more page. So in old versions, installing virtual machine, like, unless until, we don't have many things. Okay. So what's saying unsuccessful? Why? So right click. I can go to setting. Yeah, see, this check mark is not given. We have selected ISO image, but ISO image we have not given a check mark. That's why, uh, when I click, uh, so what actually happened here? It will saying unsuccessful. It's not detecting that particular CD-ROM. So what I can do, restart this, right click, reset, one more time launch the console. So now this time automatically detect the image from the ISO. I can press the key. See the way my the VMware introducing new version. We have a lot of features. I remember like when I install virtual machine for the first time, it takes a lot of time. Okay, even maybe I install like Windows 7 or the old version. So it was taking a lot of time. Even it was like 32-bit. Okay, but right now like complete virtualization, we are using a 64-bit platform. So saying loading file. So 2016. Even like in the old version, we cannot use mouse unless until the VMware tool has installed. Okay, but in a new version, we can use the mouse. Okay, that's the difference between like old and the new version. Okay, so right now I'm using the mouse. Okay, even like if you install 5.5, unless until you install the virtual machine tools. Okay, so you cannot able to use it. So from the keyboard only you have to use. You have to follow all the steps. Okay, but right now I can use the mouse. Okay, so that is the difference between like the new and the old version. Okay, So previously, like whatever the problem we have, so some of the problems are automatically sorted out. So it will be like headache for the people who use mouse, okay? But it is not, if somebody like familiar with the keyboard, no problem. We can do all the installation with the keyboard. Okay, so today I stop here. Tomorrow again we continue from the same. You know how we can able to start and how to install the virtual machine tools and everything. Okay, so hope you understand today. So if you have any question, you can ask me.